All righty. Yes, and we are live by the miracle of Google Hangouts. What's up, everyone? Welcome to our special interview today with Craig Soderdahl. And this interview is special for a couple reasons. Number one, for all you Amazon sellers, we're going to talk about how Craig has built a domestic private label business sourcing right here in the good old U.S.A. And there's a lot of reasons Craig is an inspiring person. If you guys don't know Craig Soderdahl, number one, I got to see Craig progress as a seller. He started off in retail arbitrage, doing online arbitrage, and then has progressed into private label. And Craig didn't know how to do it like a lot of people, but as of today, and this is what I love about your business, Craig, you've built a private label business. You were just sharing your numbers before the show. You've built a 6-figure net profit business on the internet without having to call friends and family, without having to hassle with doing a ton of retail arb and some of those things. And you do it working 15, 20 hours a week because your full-time job is directing and leading a kids camp, which I know is your passion. And you were sharing with me before the interview that you pretty much take the summers off. So in regards to building a lifestyle business where you get to do what you love and make an impact on the world and bring in an income to support your family along the way, Craig's done that, and Craig's a regular dude. He's not a fancy guru person. He's just a regular entrepreneur just like me and you who has put in the hustle and the good work. And on the interview today, I want to unpack his story. So if you're joining us, well, first, let me say what's up to Craig. Craig, how you doing, brother?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Looking forward to having you on. We, for those of you that are members of our top secret Amazon group, we posted this event and we had a lot of people that are excited to hear how you did it, Craig. I know there's a lot of Amazon sellers that have been in the game for maybe a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years. I know some 7-figure sellers in our group, I won't mention any names, who have struggled to do what you have done with private label. And let me get this right. As of today, Craig, how many private label products do you guys have, just to kind of give us a frame of where you guys are at?
Today, I currently have 22 products listed on Amazon, and then we are ordering 10 more products. 5 are from the United States, and then 5 I'm shipping in from China, and it should arrive August 1st.
Cool, man. So just to clarify on this, these first, I'm going to really unpack your story through the early days of how you transition. That's what this interview is going to be about. Are those 22, are those all US sourced, or are there any China sourced products in that suite?
Yep, 22 is all made in the USA. So all domestic, and get it a lot faster. There's no hassle from shipping through customs. So there's just a lot of positives to that. But yes, I am also exploring shipping from overseas as well.
Okay, cool, man. Well, this is what I want to talk about because this is a hot topic in the Amazon space. People want to know the China versus domestic. This is the big debate. And we live in the good old U.S.A. So I'm a big fan of Made in the USA. I'm a big believer that we have to make stuff in this country to be competitive in the world market. We can't just be consumers, which is what a lot of America has been. We buy everything from China. So you're one of the good guys, Craig. You're one of the guys moving us in the right direction in the future, making America, really bringing the business back to America. So I'm excited to hear about it from that perspective. I want to say what's up real quick to those of you that are joining us live on YouTube and in the group. This is a special interview. This is actually the first interview we're doing on the new channel, the new Seller Secrets channel. And the reason we started the new channel is the business is changing. Amazon is changing. The home business industry is changing. We wanted to keep you guys up to date with what's working now. And so that's the purpose of this. My name is Gabe Strom. If we have not met before, I'm in Chicago, Illinois, and Craig is tuning in by the miracle of Google Hangouts via Indianapolis, Indiana. So I want to say what's up to you guys watching live. I see Ray Watsika. You got to forgive me, Ray. I lived near a town right near where I grew up called Watsika, Illinois. And so when I see your name, I think of that. But I want to say what's up to Bruce, Melanie from Las Vegas, Denise Miller. What's up, Denise? Angela Ewing. She says she is really wants to find out how to get some PL products running. So we got some people that are excited here. Ray's down in Tampa. So Craig, are you cool, man, if we just rocket fire and we just get into the interview?
Yes, I think that's a new word for me, but yes, let's rocket fire.
Rocket fire. It's a new word for me too. I just invented it. Well, I'm excited, dude. I'm excited for a lot of reasons, man. This is a little preview. For those of you that are in the group, you already know about, we're hosting a live event in September, Seller Summit Live 2017. And Craig You're one of the speakers at that event. So if you guys want to connect with Craig in person after you hear this interview, there's details about the event below. You can go to sellersummitlive.com if you haven't grabbed your ticket. There's some early bird coupons and cool things like that we hook you up with. But I want to know first and foremost, Craig, I want to back up, man, right from the beginning. I want to know right from the beginning how you started this thing and really the breakthroughs that you had, the mental breakthroughs and, the capital that you used. So when did you first start selling on Amazon?
I started selling in September of 2015, and I found my first product at a Walgreens. It was I had listened to some videos online, and I got the seller app on my phone and just started scanning. And one of the things about Indianapolis schools is they're on a balanced calendar, so they start about a month before the rest of the country does, which is usually after Labor Day. So I bought a bunch of book covers, and just those stretchable book covers.
Yep.
I bought hundreds of them because everybody had already purchased their school supplies in Indiana, and the rest of the country hadn't yet caught up. And so I was buying all these book covers for 15 cents, 30 cents, and they were selling upwards of $12, $13 on Amazon and selling like hotcakes. But unfortunately, the school season ended, and so people stopped buying them, and so I needed to find other products after that. But I did mostly RA and OA as I started, and so I did RA and OA most through third quarter of last year. So, and then did private label as well. But I got my start doing RA, OA, visiting the clearance aisles, shopping online. So I've been in a lot of your shoes. And jumped into private label partway through my process.
Yeah, so you started like a lot of sellers, just hustling, and there's a ton of opportunity in RA. I mean, we have members of our group and Grant, members of TAP. Grant's built a 7-figure business doing just RA. So there is opportunity everywhere. You just, you went through this process, and I know one of your goals was to be able to be home. I mean, camp is a big part of why you do what you do. And so I really want to talk about how you've built that freedom. I mean, working 15, 20 hours a week. And just to give, I just got to tease, I mean, we got to share some real numbers before we get too deep, Craig. So give me an idea. What were your sales like last year? And give us an idea of what your net profit was on that sale, just so we can kind of put this in perspective for those of you selling.
So I'm not a 7-figure seller. I did sell, though, about $367,000 in revenue last year. And my profit on that $367,000 was about $122,000 in net profit. So
that's net, like before taxes, like after paying all expenses, all hard costs, net profit.
That's everything. That's what my accountant told me that I owed money on.
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool, man. Well, this is inspiring. I mean, a lot of people, I think they see these big sellers, but I want to break this down. So I don't have my calculator handy. Someone can do the math real quick. What's that profit margin? Is that 35, 40%, something like that?
It's about 33%. And that includes, so profit margins on my current products are about 35 to 40%. And if you include on the advertising fees, so running PPC, that will drive some of the numbers down as well. Subscriptions to services like Inventory Lab and other things like that.
Yeah, all the tools, everything. So, okay, cool. Well, we got Jerry Marlowe in the house too. Jerry's another guy from our group. Jerry's got 18 domestic private labels. We may have to have Jerry on a future hangout to compare notes with what you guys are doing. He says he's excited to hear how Craig's doing his domestic stuff. So, cool, man. So you started in September. Just to give someone some frame, and I know you're a humble guy, Craig. I appreciate you sharing, man. You're volunteering your time. This is your busy season, so you could be at camp. I don't know what Fridays are like on camp day, but I have a lot of respect for that, man. I've got a passion for kids too. It's a big reason why we do what we do. Sarah and I just have a big passion for kids as well. But so I want to back up, man. Started in 2015. You were hustling. You said Q3 of 2016. So last year, you got into it. What was your first private label experience? Did you have, I guess the first question a lot of people want to know is, did you have like a ton of money when you started? Or what did you, a lot of people, when they see, buying in China, a lot of times I've heard horror stories, people spending, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000, $12,000 on their first order without ever testing the market, which I think is a cardinal sin as an entrepreneur. This is the big breakthrough that you watching is I learned this a long time ago about creating MVPs. I forget who taught me this, but a minimal viable product. So before you go all crazy and, you know, do all this stuff, you just want to see if the thing works and see if people will buy it. And if you can get feedback with people buying your product, then you can go and invest. But I'm just curious, did you start with a bunch of money, or how did you start with your first product?
It's a great question. So I'll jump a little bit further back. I actually started following just randomly a product that I found going into Christmas season of 2015. And so I just, I looked at it and I knew there was just one seller. I knew a little bit about private label, but I was like, man, this person is killing it. And they had a bunch of products, but one of their products in particular had taken off, and it wasn't crazy. It wasn't something that I couldn't figure out how to do. It was very simple in my opinion. And so that kind of just got my brain going, and I stuck with that. I was like, I'm going to be this guy's competitor at some point. I don't know when, but I'll figure that out. And so probably in March of 2017 is when I made my initial purchase. And I probably spent about $1,000. Again, it's domestic. So I didn't have this huge order quantity, minimum order quantity. And the price was flexible in terms of my order quantity as well. So I didn't have a lot, and like you said, Gabe, which I think is really important, I didn't have a lot of things figured out when I ordered my first product. So packaging was not well done. So where I am today, my listing wasn't well done. Just kind of how I did everything was copying and learning and on the fly, but I just started with an initial order, and then I started figuring things out after that, which is huge.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Craig, because there's, I think a lot of sellers wait for all the lights to be green on private label, and they try and get everything perfect. And I've been embracing this new concept that done is the new perfect. And so you didn't have all the answers. That's the key. So if you're watching this and you're fearful, you haven't, there's a lot of people that go through like all these different trainings, and they still haven't bought their first products. So you didn't have all that. You were in education mode. What was your, that first $1,000 order? What was your, how many units were you buying, or what did that buy you?
It would be probably less than, I'm guessing at a number, about 500 or less, about 500.
So this wasn't a huge quantity. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Well, what happened with the first one? I mean, there's a lot of steps in this process. So, I mean, I think the first thing I'm learning is the research phase seems to be, and before we get any further, I just got to address kind of the elephant in the room, because I think aside from sourcing, I think a lot of people get stuck in just figuring out what do I sell? And so, I mean, how did you go through that? I've heard different sellers talk about different strategies of making a list and things like that. How did you go about picking a product? Let's just start at like ground zero.
Yeah, I've learned a lot since I started my initial private label business, but I found a competitor basically, and I just said, I can do what they're doing. I didn't put a ton of research into a lot of other products. I started using Jungle Scout, so I think that is one that you can find a lot of products through. And I've actually found some great, it brings up a lot of ideas of areas that you would never have thought of. And you can start to rabbit trail with those. I do think rabbit trail, so you just go into a category, and there's some categories that are better than others. So most of the product label ideas that I'm thinking of are not anything ingestible that you put on your skin. So nothing really health and beauty, or vitamins or anything like that. Again, there are people that are extremely successful in those areas, but it's pretty competitive to start in those areas. You have to have a lot of dollars, a lot of inventory, a lot of PPC, but people make millions of dollars selling that kind of stuff. I didn't go in that direction, but home and kitchen, sports and outdoors, toys, office supplies. There's some great categories that you can find tons and tons of products. But really the way I started, I found one, and I just said, I can copy this person's product for the most part. I can put my own little spin on it. But overall, I can see that the sales are there. And I would say that this is one of the big learning curves why I think some people are successful with private label and others. And I have purchased courses since then. But what you want to do with private label specifically is find a product, but then create a variation to it. And that variation might be how you package it, how you bundle it, how it's designed, what you include with it. I think most people, either they copy a product that's easily duplicated, and then it's kind of a price war down to the bottom. So I'll take everybody uses the garlic press as the example. If everybody can buy the same garlic press from China, you're not really creating anything of new value. And so it just becomes, I can price mine 10 cents cheaper, then all of a sudden it sells for nothing. So I think you have to create a product that has some kind of variation that you're adding value to the customer from what already exists in the marketplace. And I think that's huge. And I think that's what people get stuck at, is they find products, but they don't know how to add variation, or they're not thinking of variation. And so they find something like a fidget spinner and everybody else is selling the same fidget spinner. It's going to be hard to compete in that world when your product looks just like everybody else's.
Yeah, wouldn't you like to have been the guy that invented that? I heard he doesn't even have a patent on that. This is a sidebar. The fidget spinner is a relevant thing. Do you know anything about that?
I don't, but I'm guessing he doesn't have a patent because there's lots of Amazon sellers selling it. So my guess is that he doesn't have a patent, and boy, if he did, he would be killing it right now.
Those silly little things, man. It's like the new pet rock from the 80s. This is crazy. Anyways, back on track, dude. So you're talking about, and this is the one, I've seen a lot of Amazon training, and I study a lot of stuff out there. And people say, like, go find a product and just slap a new label on it. So you're talking, and I see it's a lot of copycats, like Me Too products. And I think it's it's certainly a strategy for getting to market fast. The challenge with that is that you're a Me Too product, so there really is no added value. And you're just, if your strategy is to make the same product and lower on price, you're just going to race to the bottom, just like you do in RA and OA. So you're talking about a different approach, finding a value add, finding a way to add value to an existing product. And you're talking variations. So these could be, I don't know, because I don't know your products, and we won't share your actual products out of respect for your business, but these are color variations, sizes. If it's like a kitchen spoon, you're finding a way to make it a little bit more valuable with a rubber handle or something, some kind of way to add more value to the customer. Is that what you're talking about?
Yep, it could be a quantity variation. You can add to that spoon example that you talked about. You can add a whole cutlery set, or add a fork to it, or the spoon looks different in terms of how you designed it, that it's a soup spoon combination and a cereal spoon. Again, I'm making a bad example, but just that you're taking something that already exists in the marketplace, but making it unique to you. And I think that's where I think you're going to find success. Don't go after the big products that everybody else is selling. There's a ton of people who start late. They jump in on the wave that everybody's already caught. And so they get stuck with 1,000 barbecue gloves or 1,000 fidget spinners. And there are people who are successful at selling those, but they're out ahead of you. And to catch up with them is really hard to do. So don't think I'm going to get the biggest wave and I'm going to catch the biggest product, because chances are if you're not first or early, you're going to be stuck with a lot of inventory and very frustrated.
I think Ricky Bobby said that. If you're not first, you're last. I'm pretty sure that's how they go. If you're not first, you're last. Okay, folks?
Yeah.
I go fast. So tell me this, Craig. Real quick, I just got to ask this question. What should someone not, there's a lot of training out there, and I'm curious on your story of how you did it. What are some things that people should not do? So one thing I heard you say is don't go after the big products. Is it fair to say that the riches are in the niches? And I don't know your product suite, but would you recommend someone go small to those niches, or how should they start?
Yeah, I think the riches are in the niches. So getting specific to a category, I think there's a couple things. One is have a brand in mind and not just a singular product in mind. So fidget, what's that?
No, I'm just making a mental point.
Yeah. So the fidget spinners, it's great, but it's really one product. Potentially, and can you add a lot of variation that people are willing to pay for? Now you can add color variations, I get that, but think, how can I turn this into a brand? Because I think that can add some serious value. You'll get some people who will follow you, who want to know your new products that you're listing. They become repeat customers, and they can recommend it to their friends if they know that you have products that not only meet their needs, but the needs of other people. I'd say that for the most part, in terms of like BSR, again, it depends on the category, but you don't want to be in the top 100. Now you can get some ideas of how to be a variation of the top 100 products or the movers and shakers, and add value that way. But you're trying to compete, I think, a little bit further back. And part of it is that you don't have a cajillion competitors coming after you as well. So I think that's And when I say BSR, again, it depends on the category, but most BSRs that I'm looking at probably are in the 5,000 up to 15,000 range. And I think that creates a level of safety that you don't get a bunch of people piling on. You can go lower. I don't want to say you can't go lower, or you can't go higher, because you might find a product that's amazing that isn't marketed well on Amazon. And so it may be ranking 25,000, but if you know what you're doing in terms of listing optimization and PPC, you can make it a 5,000 rank or lower, which is not a bad thing.
Okay, you're getting if someone's brand new, you just got a little technical. So but for the experienced sellers, you could hear this is all like industry lingo. But BSR, what is that?
Best sellers rank. So I haven't had to explain this in a while, but if you are let's say the toy category, Amazon assigns a number of 1 to whatever, how many millions of products are in the toy category. But if you are ranked number 1 in toys, you're the best seller in that category. So your rank is number 1. So the lower your rank, the more successful you are at selling your product in that category. So if I have a rank between 5,000 and 15,000, that means I'm the 5,000th best seller at that snapshot in time. That's the other thing that's kind of important as well, is that you have to look back at some of the history, because it's just a snapshot. It's that day, it's that moment. You're ranking at 5,000. A week later, a week before, you might have been at 10,000 or 1,000. So looking at the sales history is also important.
So BSR, is that the same thing as rank? It's just the...
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Sorry.
So that's still a rank. Okay. I just want to clarify that. So you're looking, that's one of the things I want to cover through here next is like your criteria. Because there's a lot of, over analyzers that want to get in this space. And someone just mentioned in chat, Angela mentioned that creativity is the tricky part. And that seems, we heard that at, you're a member of our group, but you're also a founding member of our Platinum Mastermind Group. And at a couple of our retreats, you got to hear that from some sellers, that we had a little like Shark Tank bidding war going on, because Craig you just got a gift with creativity, I think. And I don't even know if you fully recognize that gift. Definitely a lot more so than other people who just they're just not creative people. And so they're like stuck. How do I even, people were at the event, we're going to pay you like, good money, $5,000, $10,000 just to come up with an idea, a product idea.
Right.
So what are you looking for? You're looking for a value add. You don't go chase after the top. I say top, really the bottom, top 100. You're looking for 5,000 to 15,000 in a category. What other like high level type of criterias or bumpers, like check marks, are you looking for a winning product?
Yeah, I don't know if I have them set in stone, but I'm looking for products that I probably can make at least $10 profit on them. I want to see that they have a sales history, and in terms of, is there variation? Does it sell pretty consistently throughout the year? Is it a seasonal product? And sometimes seasonal products have multiple times in the year where they become very popular, and that can be a great way to go as well. So I don't want to discourage that, because people make a killing sometimes just focusing on Halloween or back to school. And so that's not a bad thing. You just have to plan that you're not relying on a big back to school and it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I look at a lot of different categories. I'm probably at a lower price point too. So my return on investment, I'm looking for a multiplier of at least 200% on the money that I'm putting down. So my products are typically not as expensive. Now, the hard thing with that is you tend to get more competitors, because if I bought a really expensive product, there's lower chance that other private label sellers are going to come after you. So if it costs me $50 a unit and I can sell it for $300, there's going to be less people there competing with me. So I'm not at that point, but I know of people that are selling larger products. So my products are typically smaller. So they weigh less than 5 pounds typically. So weight also makes a big difference as well. That eats into your profit margin. In terms of profit margin, I'm typically looking at 40% or above, and that's before advertising. So I want to get a return on investment of at least 40%. And part of that is, if it does get competitive, then your price will drop. And that's, if I get bumped down to 30%, I'm still doing great. I'm not worried about that. But if I start at 30 and it starts to get down to 20 or 15, then I've spent a lot of time and energy in a category or a product that is just not panning out at the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that at least gives some parameters. So you're starting, and this is interesting you brought this off. Starting off, you're looking for smaller, lightweight products. It's probably easier to get them shipped, probably less. This is how you started. You're looking for 40% or above profit margins. You're looking for products that are going to give you a 200% ROI, which some people heard that, and the RA sellers just like drooled a little bit. And then there's some stock market guy that heard that, and he was like half asleep, and he just woke up. He's like, "What's this guy talking about? This is a unicorn. This doesn't
wake
exist
up."
in the world." So you're putting money into the machine. So you put $1 in, and help me out. How does 200% work? You're getting $2 back.
Yep.
Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now you mentioned the higher products, that you started off with the smaller products, but you mentioned this like opportunity, and I picked up on this as an entrepreneur because I learned this from Gary Ray in our group, that he does really well. There's a lot of sellers that do really well on the more quote unquote expensive. I mean, for Amazon, $50 to a couple $100. You know, things like car seats and things like that most sellers will skip over. And this happens in the RA OA space as well. And he makes a killing off these things. They're bigger. There's more risk because you got shipping and things like that. Do you see that same opportunity in private label where somebody could start with the smaller products, but is kind of the goal to get into some of those other areas where there might be less competition?
I think so. It hasn't panned out for me in terms of doing the higher cost, but I remember being in Chicago with Gary Ray, and he was mentioning, you know, it takes just about as much work to source something but make $20 off of it or $50 off of it as it takes something to make $5 profit. So that stuck with me. I haven't necessarily committed to jumping in there, but if Gary and I were partners, he'd probably push me into that level of take the risk, take the jump. So there's huge opportunities there. I think for starting out, I think I would not recommend it for anybody that's just starting out, just because there's a lot of unknowns, and you're going to invest a lot more upfront. So, you know, if my initial purchase was $1,000, you know, you're talking probably getting into the $15,000 to $20,000 on a higher priced item. One of the things that I loved about, and I wasn't very good at this, all my receipting with RA and OA, I didn't have a great system. My orders now are few and far between with private label, but I'm, you know, probably this last month I made about $20,000 in purchases, but there was probably only, you know, 5 or 6 receipts with that. So that was reducing the headache of having piles of receipts that I wasn't really good at organizing. Yeah, that was a big plus for me. So I now have a very small stack of receipts that I have to follow and track.
Dude, somebody else just had like their brain just exploded. Someone's got a box of receipts from their RAOA stuff thinking, gosh, I should hear this. This reminds me of a good book, guys. If you haven't read this, The Power of Less. It's a real short book by Leo Babauta. I don't know how big it is. You can read this like in a couple days or whatever, but less is more in business a lot of times. And a lot of times I think we try and overcomplicate things. I want to get to the latter part of your story where this is how you're able, when you hear you're working 15, 20 hours a week and you take basically the summers off to do your camps. This is how you're doing it. You're not outsourcing. You've just found one source. And I'm curious, you were talking in the pre-interview that you don't consider yourself an expert of sourcing because you have one source for, is this correct? You have one domestic source for your whole family of products? Or are they coming from multiple places?
Just one place.
One place. So you're not a master of domestic sourcing if anyone's watching that has that belief, but you found one and it makes you 6 figures from one. So you don't need to have 10 zillion suppliers. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think that, you know, I went back to my supplier too and said, you know, are there other things that sell well? I think that's another thing that they want to sell you product. So they gave me a list of 3 or 4 other products that I should consider. And so that's what I'm adding on, is a few more products that they suggested to me. So I now am selling more of their products. So they're happier, I'm happier, I get a better price point, I build my relationship better. So yeah, to me, domestic, if there is an option and it's close in terms of pricing, I'd say go domestic because there's just a lot less hoops and you're going to get your product a lot faster and you can test more. And typically the typical order is a little bit smaller than shipping from China. So again, I just did my first international order, which is coming in August 1st. So I'm not necessarily an expert on shipping overseas either. But it takes a lot longer. So when I started my private label overseas, I started the conversation in April, and I'm going to get my first product in August. So this is it's a marathon. I can't go to the store, buy something, and ship it into Amazon and have it selling within a week. So it is something you have to think ahead. You have to plan ahead, and it just takes time. There's ways to get it faster, so I don't want to say that you can't, but typically I have actually helped a few of my friends as well start up private label. And they're in the same boat that I am. You're talking 3 to 4 months before you even get your first product. So if it is something that you're considering, you don't want to wait another 6 months to a year to get started, because it's going to take a while just to get launched.
Yeah. So if you're like eyeballing Q4 of this year, you want to be starting 3-4 months ahead of time. So you still have time for this year. And we're going to talk about that at the summit in September. I'm really looking forward to hearing you talk, Craig, and just kind of seeing the inside. We're talking a lot of high level stuff today. I know at the event, we're going to go into more technical, like how do you do some of these pieces. Mike Lanigan had a question for searching for products. He was asking minimum order quantities. I think we answered some of these questions about the cost, the weight, the dimensions. You're looking for small, lightweight things when you start. He was asking if you order like 5 at a time. So what's the minimum order quantity? MOQ is an industry term when you're doing like an initial order in the States versus what you've seen in China and overseas.
The initial order in the States is typically, it can be as few as 100, depending on whether they have it in stock and how complicated your product is as well. But typically 500 may be where you're going to land with most manufacturers in the United States. Again, you can go a little bit lower because you're sourcing it locally, and they're probably willing to play a little bit more. I think when you're international, you're asking for some kind of variation, which typically I think most orders start at about 1,000. Again, you can drive them down, but they want to see higher, 1,000 to 5,000 as your initial. Which for some people can be harder, just to come up with the capital to do that.
So the real benefit, and I've heard this from you, I've heard it from, there's other domestic sellers in our group, and I won't mention any names publicly, that the life cycle, the product cycle is much faster domestically because you're not shipping stuff overseas on planes, trains, and automobiles. Number 2, you're not going to be up late at night talking to China, chatting with some dude across the internet that you've never met before. I don't know. Have you ever been to your manufacturer? Have you like gone to the plant and like toured it, or have you just all been over the phone with these guys?
It's mostly been over the internet, a little bit over the phone. But yeah, it's super fast, super easy. And I can speak about the international because that's what took us almost a month just to figure out the product, because we were on different time zones. So I learned quickly, like also for international, jump on Skype. And you can knock out a whole lot in 30 minutes versus I ask you 2 questions and the next day you get back to me and you didn't give me the right answer. So it took weeks really to figure that out. But locally, you're going to have someone who speaks your language, knows what you're looking for. It's just going to be a much, much faster turnaround overall, for sure.
Ding, you hear that? That's the sign of success. So you're right, dude. So faster turnaround, and I'm hearing you say lower minimum order quantities. So you're getting into a product for maybe 100, as low as 100 units to 500 units versus thousands. There's just a lot of benefits. I like this all around because I'm a big proponent of speed, and I know I've learned that money loves speed, and the faster you can get to market. So a couple big takeaways I'm hearing from you, Craig. Number 1, you're thinking about a family of products, and you're saying the same thing I've heard Samantha in our group talk about in different domestic private label. Don't think about one thing and kind of narrow your vision. Think about a family and go. And now when you launched, did you launch like one product and then go launch another? Or did you launch several at the same time, or how did you go about that?
I launched several at the same time, which was good. It lowered the risk a little bit, but it was complicated when I was trying to learn what I was doing. So I would recommend in the future, don't order a ton of variation. Start with maybe 3 at the most, because you got to create multiple listings. You got to take photographs. You got to do a bunch of different things that you're just in the learning curve, and that can slow you down as well. So if you can start with 1, I think that's a good thing. And I wouldn't go more than 3 for the most part. Again, you can scale up pretty quickly. It is the long road. So I don't have this sense of, not that I don't want to hustle, but I don't have this sense of urgency. I want to be thoughtful in the products that I select. And I know that, and I have a little bit more time to think about it too. So because it takes so long, I've been thinking about what I want and the questions that I have. So it's okay. It's a slower pace in terms of you're not launching a new product every day. You're not finding them every day. So it definitely slows you down, but the return, I was talking to you a little bit earlier, it's a flywheel. This is a flywheel business. When you get it up and running and it starts going, it runs really fast and really smooth, and the work involved after you get it going is awesome. And so I'm reaping the rewards of that, but the startup was really hard and slow. So that's just private label. It's not an easy start, but once you get it going, it gets a lot easier to manage and maintain. And again, I have a lot less receipts at the end of the day, which I'm excited about. But yeah, so I don't know if that helped, but that's kind of how I looked at it.
Yeah, it's a good mix. And I know a lot of sellers who do really well just doing one thing. RA guys that crush it, OA people that do it, a lot of people that try private label. So it's a marathon, not a sprint. This is a good long-term strategy. It's a good long-term play if you want to build long-term time freedom and wealth for your family. There's probably a lot of risk too with bringing in new products, but I
would add real quick, Gabe, that part of my I had a few constraints which changed my. I've been with Spring Hill Camps, the organization I work for. I'm like the chief operating officer for the camp. So I didn't have, and I've been with them for 17 years. I love the ministry. I love the work that we do. So I needed something that I could step away from. I needed something that didn't require all my time and effort. I also have 4 boys. My oldest is a senior in high school. I have a freshman in high school, and then I have a 6th grader and 5th grader. So every day when I get home, my wife tells me kind of what's the schedule. The itinerary is already printed out where she's going to be, where I'm going to be. So I really didn't have a lot of free time between my full-time job and then my kids. So I needed something that really could run without me, and I could step away. And I typically right now in the summer, I maybe 5 to 10 hours a week or less. And most of that's just checking my sales, checking my feedback. Again, I could outsource some of that, but I like looking at my sales numbers. So I don't spend a lot of time in the summer. And the last summer, I really didn't do anything. I checked out for 3 or 4 months, and yet still had about $120,000 in profit at the end of the day. And most of that was from private label. I'm on pace this year. Again, I'm learning a lot more. I'm adding more product. I'm getting smarter about how to list, how to do PPC. I'm on pace right now to be hopefully around $500,000 in sales. So my net profit will be, I'm not going to say it's going to be 200,000, but it's going to be between 150 and 200,000. And again, that's 10 to 15 hours a week and trying to get those flywheels started and move on to the next one. So that's exciting. And that, again, if it's part of your portfolio, if you're considering private label, it's exciting. It's really hard to start, but it was really hard to start RA. It was really hard to start OA. There's a huge learning curve of how to ship, how to label, what to do right, what not to do right. So I get that there's complexity to all of them, but when you start to exercise that muscle, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And then you stop second guessing yourself. But we all do that when we start with Amazon. My RAing in the beginning looked different than 6 months later because I kind of knew what to look for, what not to look for. And the same thing is true of private label. It's really hard to start. It's slower, but it can pay off when you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, man. You painted the vision of the flywheel, and I'm one of those weirdos that watches those like Alaska shows. So I see those guys building those things. So you do the work up front like a locomotive. It takes a lot of energy to get the train going, but once the train's going, it coasts, and that's what gives you. I mean, gosh, dude, there's a lot of people that are work really hard at their day jobs, and they just heard you say I check out in the summertime and work 5 to 10 hours a day, and they just got really excited about the vision, but you had to go through the hard part. So I want to take, in the sake of time, we're going to condense. This is the part of the interview where we usually get to the really good stuff because usually me and our guests get more comfortable as we're talking through this. But I want to talk about some of the breakthroughs you've had and the power of live events and getting around people, because you started this like a lot of sellers, and I know it wasn't super easy in the beginning, but I want to flash back to, we had a mastermind in Chicago, and we didn't get to fully talk about the impact of that event that had on your life and the power of live events. But where were you at the Chicago event? I know, did you have just a couple products that you had started? I know you weren't full, you had launched, but I don't think you were fully off the ground. Where were you back at that event?
So I had just, when we came around the Chicago event, I had launched my private label in April prior to summer. Again, my summer is crazy. So I pretty much checked out. So I launched these products. I pretty much check out for 4 months. And then I came back, and that's when we had the Chicago event. I think it was like September, October. It wasn't too late in the fall. And to me, I was still doing RA a little bit. I was still doing OA. As I come out of summer, I started thinking, what do I want to do? And so probably getting more into OA. And then I just remember being there, and I think it was Gary and Lance. They helped me understand that I actually had a business. It may sound weird, but I hadn't been that much into it, meaning I hadn't put a lot of work into it. I checked out all summer, but I was consistently making about $200 a day. And then Gary got out his calculator and started doing the math. He's like, or I can't remember, it was 100. I don't remember if it was 200, but whatever. He's like, you have a $50,000 business, which I was like, oh, I hadn't really thought of that before. And he said, well, I'll take that off your hands. And so he and Lance started doing a little Shark Tank, and I was like, well, maybe I should hold on to this, because they could recognize that I had something that I didn't recognize that I had, which was really, really cool. And so those guys, I know they would have bought my business if I had it for sale, but they really did inspire me to really take this seriously and know that I had something special. And so just that networking, and I was at the event last year, and I've been part of the Platinum Mastermind Group for 2 sessions, two seasons through. And so the coaching that you get and just being around people who are similar to you or different than you, you just have some great conversations. You get to know that there's people in your shoes. There's people that are inspiring. I think that was the other thing, is just, I know that sometimes it feels like a competition, or wow, I want to be at their level. And I can't remember who said it, but comparison is the thief of joy. I think that might have been in Brandon's course or his session. I think it was a Teddy Roosevelt quote. And that, use people's success to inspire you and not to deflate you. I think that was a big help for me, of not looking at others and go, wow, they're killing it. I don't have a 7-figure business. Well, you know what? I'm doing okay where I'm at. And yes, can I do more? And using that as an inspiration versus like, man, I'm stinking. I'm not at their level, because I think that's where people give up. That's where they get frustrated, and really just make sure that you're growing from one year to the next, from 1 month to the next. What can I do intentionally that's going to help my business grow? And then what am I going to stop doing? I think that was the other big part, is when I got to Q4, most of my product sales were for my private label. And so I had to make that decision there. I was like, man, I'm spending a lot of time. I don't have a lot of free time. I'm spending probably more time on OA, just searching for product. And I wasn't very good at it either. But I was like, man, my private label is 90% of my sales, and yet I'm spending half of my time trying to source from other things. And so at that point, I just said, I'm stopping RA and OA and just focusing on private label, because it was where I should spend my time.
Okay, so couple breakthroughs there I want to unpack, and I want to get to I'm going to finish this segment here about the power of events and the transformation that you have, and then at the end of this interview we'll do a segment on I want to talk real quick, Craig, on actual sourcing. So we've talked about how to find a product, kind of step one, and some of the steps you take. And I want to talk about the second half of that, which is how do you go about locating a manufacturer and tracing down a supplier. But before that, I want to camp out. So a couple breakthroughs. Number one, at the Chicago event, you saw the value in your business. And I think that's powerful, that sometimes you have to get around other people thinking at a high level in life. And we're sitting in a room with some really successful Amazon sellers, and you're getting feedback from a couple 7-figure guys saying, hey, I'll buy your business from you. And you were showing up at the event thinking, I don't even know if I'm going to do this, if I have a business or whatever. So that kind of lit a fire under your belly. And what would you say was your, you mentioned another breakthrough, but what's been some of your, just being around people, or what's your favorite part about live events, and why do you go to sharpen your saw?
It's just fun to hear people's stories of what they're working on. I'm definitely a question asker. So I love to learn. I love to just figure things out. So I like to do that. But being live with people and kind of what they're going through, and you can pick up so much. Here's the interesting thing too. I've been at live events, and I've been at conversations. I've been in conversations with people where they just did all the talking, and yet I know who I'm with. So we were with one of the coaches in this group, and they're killing it. And another person that we were eating a meal with, this coach and this other person, and the other person just talked the whole time. I was like, be quiet, like ask questions, because there's so much that we're wasting this person's time. Not that it wasn't a great conversation, but just like, wow, this person has so much knowledge, and we're spending our time like listening to your story that is okay, but it's not. This person's far in advance, so just become prepared to ask questions, to listen, to learn, and expect them to ask questions of you. I mean, that was the beautiful thing, is like people who you think are, why they're so far ahead of me, they're asking way more questions of me too. You know, like they're trying to figure out what I'm doing. So I think successful people just have that just willingness to learn, willingness to ask, willingness to listen. And I think that's a trait that's a real good quality. So talk less, listen more. I'm talking a lot now, but I usually don't talk this much. So.
Yeah, you're a humble guy. If I wasn't asking you questions, you'd be the one listening. So that's a big key. So when you go to an event, and when you guys come, we have an event coming out up in Louisville, Kentucky, the September 1st and 2nd of this year. If you guys are seeing this before then, make sure you get your tickets. There's a link below that. Craig's one of our speakers. Gary Ray's going to be there. Who's the guy that we've been talking about, seven-figure seller. Grant Dunn will be speaking on how he's built his seven-figure business doing retail ARB, so the old-fashioned way. And then Devin will be talking also about doing online. So we're going to cover kind of all the pieces of the business. I'll be transparent, Craig. I love all these guys, and I will sit and I'll be the first one to sit there with my notepad and take notes. I'm really looking forward to what you're going to talk about in this business model. This is something that Sarah and I have been talking about for helping to replace her income as an attorney. That private label could be a good long-term vehicle for us, another income stream. And so I'm going to be there listening as well. But I love your advice, Craig, that come with a humble heart and willing to listen and learn. And I've noticed that from you. I've noticed that from all the successful sellers in our group. Gary's another prime example of this. You know, one of the top sellers in our group, and the first thing he says when he shows up at an event is, hey, I'm here to learn. How can I serve? And I'll never forget that, man. That kind of stuff sticks with me, that the most successful people are the ones that sit and take notes and are humble and there to learn. So talk less, listen more. And I've heard this before. God gave us 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. So that's a good little tip for those of you that go to events, is to ask questions and just soak and just listen. So let me talk about this. If you guys haven't got your tickets yet to the event, there's a link below in the description. You can grab those. This is probably my favorite thing we do all year, Craig. It's the thing that takes the most amount of work to put on and host, but it's also the thing that we do that's the most satisfying and rewarding, because we get to see the transformation from year to year and the growth that happens. And that's kind of why we started hosting the summit, as an opportunity for us all to come together once a year to get off the internet and do this weird thing called like meet in person and shake hands and look each other in the eye, and some of this old school stuff that we were just kind of joking about before the hangout that technology has separated us from. So we come together in person. We're a community on the internet, a part of the Top Secret group, but we like to come together. And as the Bible says, as iron sharpens iron, man sharpens man. And there's all kinds of cool stuff that happens at those events. I've heard the feedback of just the networking and the breakout sessions alone. People love those things. So that info's below. Let's talk about this. I want to talk very quickly. And if you guys have questions, let me rapid fire a real quick question at you, Craig, and then we'll spend the last maybe 10 minutes here or so talking about sourcing. And if you guys want to hear more from Craig, how many, just as a show of hands, you guys, we have a bunch of you on live. How many of you guys are excited to hear Craig live at the summit? I'm just curious who's excited for PL, and how many of you guys want to add a revenue stream, and your goal is to add private label to your business this year. I'm just curious how many of you guys would do that. While those are coming in, Craig, I got to ask you about sourcing. So when you identify a product and you identify a family of products, how did you go about finding a supplier?
Just looking online. So Googling for my domestic supplier, just looking up who manufactured this product that I was, it didn't take very long. to find different distributors or manufacturers that I could get my product through. I would say this too, and Alibaba for international. Alibaba is not the only one, but Alibaba is a great source. A ton of companies, and there's actually Alibaba for different countries as well. So I know there's Alibaba for India, there's Alibaba for Vietnam, and so sometimes that can be a differentiator of potentially looking at other websites, meaning look at Vietnamese manufacturers or Indian manufacturers, because they have a product that everybody else is looking to China to sell, but then you find something in India that nobody's looking and offer that to the marketplace. I would say that product selection, so the two hardest things I would say that with private label, one is product selection, so picking the right product. I think that's where some people get stuck. And I also am one that I've continued to learn and grow, and there are some amazing courses that are out there that help with the sourcing end of it. But actually the supplier part I thought was going to be really, really complicated. Other than the time zone changes of the speed, it's been great working with the manufacturer that I'm working with, and there's ways to test. So asking specific questions, especially if you're shipping over internationally, how responsive are they? What's their English look like? Are they answering your questions the right way? Are they giving you the answers that you're looking for? So, and that's kind of what helped me understand how to pick a right supplier overseas. But again, I don't think that the supplier picking was really, I thought it was more daunting than it was. It's actually fairly simple at the end of the day. And my supplier, I asked for samples, and I had them within a week. So they took it seriously, and I'm like, I'm gonna work with somebody who's gonna get right back to me, answer the questions that I have specifically, and I didn't feel like hadn't needed a translator to understand what they were saying.
Okay, so you're saying product selection. This is so interesting. This business model, all the hurdles are like up front. Like picking a product seems to be the biggest hurdle. You're saying finding the supplier wasn't actually that difficult. Were you, so just to clarify that, for a domestic supplier, were you like Googling this suppliers in your area? Were you looking for like your product name followed by manufacturer, or is there like a directory you were going to? I know I've heard of different things. How did you start that search?
Well, there's a couple things. Probably the main Alibaba version locally is thomasnet.com. That is a list of manufacturers within the United States. So Thomasnet is, I know it sounds like it should be thomas.net, but it's thomasnet.com.
Okay.
And they'll list, depending on your product that you're looking for. So if it's garlic press, you just go to thomasnet.com, type in garlic press, and then it will list the manufacturers who manufacture and distribute and sell the garlic press. But you can also do, not everybody lists on Thomasnet. So Googling, is there an option of somebody who sells your same product within the United States? So there are quite a few manufacturers of products in the United States. So the price might be a little bit higher, but you have to weigh everything in terms of the shipping costs, the time that it takes to get that product stocked. So those are all key variables that you need to understand. I'd say the second thing too, I didn't finish my thought process. One is product selection is hard. And then the second, I think, is really kind of optimizing and launching your product well is the other part. And there are tons of courses, free and paid, online of how to do that well. That's the part that I still learn and am growing in. But despite my ability, it's done quite well. So I kind of say, I know it might sound funny to some people, but I feel like I'm 50% there in terms of like being fully optimized on the techniques and strategies that are out there. Again, my competitor that I started with, he's still ahead of me. So I'm trying to catch up to my competitor, but they've figured some things out. And I think it lines around how they're optimizing their listing and how they're doing PPC as well. So again, so there's more advanced strategies. I'm not going to get into that now because I don't want to confuse people, but there's a lot of different venues and ways to sell your product inside Amazon and outside Amazon. And I'm just learning on the Amazon part. I'm not selling anything really off Amazon. And I fully haven't optimized my listings on Amazon. So there's still a lot of room for growth, which is encouraging to me. I haven't arrived.
Yeah, man, it'll be interesting to have this conversation a year or a couple of years from now, because you're having success and it's awesome and you feel like you're just scratching the surface. I feel like Amazon is just scratching the surface. I just heard on the radio the other day that they opened up a new plant in Salt Lake City and opened up 1,500 new jobs. They bought Whole Foods earlier last month. I mean, they're just like growing like crazy. And I don't see this whole e-commerce trend slowing down anytime soon, because it's fun getting stuff on the internet. It's really easy to order stuff on Amazon and have it show up 2 days later with that happy little smiley box. It's just the fun. I don't know if you guys watching our buyers or Prime customers too, but cool, man. Well, I want to ask you, you brought up the launching, man. So 2 biggest challenges, and I know this is just one interview, so we're going to bring this to a point here. If you guys want to hear more from Craig, get your tickets to Seller Summit Live. It's going to be your best chance to hear Craig speak, and then also to catch him in the hallway. If you're going to if you're one of the VIPs, he'll be at the VIP dinner, and we've got a special VIP room this year that we're doing, which is pretty cool. I love treating you guys like rock stars. So for those of you guys that grab those tickets, you can maybe catch him on a lounge and hopefully not talk. As I have a feeling you're going to be doing a little more talking this year, Craig, than usually. It'll be a good role reversal, so you can pass on some of the wisdom you've been learning. But let me talk launching real quick, because that's a whole nother topic, man. And I bet Jerry is on the Hangout. He had asked about this too. Is there like a short list? We could probably do a whole Hangout on launching, but what are some of the important keys when you do go to launch your product? If you had to give like on a high level.
I think keyword research, so making sure that you've done some, and again, there's a lot of techniques and tactics to this, so I don't want to get into so much of the details, but really understanding your keywords that people are using to buy your product and really optimizing your listing around those keywords. So those are back-end keywords, those are title. Your title keywords are most important. So if you're missing out on certain words, so if you are selling a garlic press and you don't have the word press in your title, you're going to have a hard time selling that. But understanding there's a lot more variations of a garlic press in terms of words that people search. And so really doing your homework on that, I think is key. So that's the listing optimization side. Taking great photos, I think that's where I try to go cheap. And had one photo. Now I have every one of my products. I have full line of photos. Get them done professionally. That doesn't mean they have to be ridiculously expensive, and you don't have to start that way. So when I started selling mine, I had one photo. The quality was not great, and now I have 6 or 7 photos. The quality went higher, and you can find a lot of these services. I know it can sound burdensome or hard to figure out, but I use Fiverr for a lot. Fiverr is, if you're not familiar, that there's people that do services on how to write your listings, take photos for you, create your logo for you. And that's been, I've done probably the majority of my work has been with Fiverr, finding random people, and most of them don't live in the United States. Their price point is low, which is, why you're paying $5 to $10. Again, the quality may not be always where you want it to be, but I can test 2 or 3 different vendors and spend $15 and pick out the right logo, or someone to write my listing for me. So don't feel like you have to go it alone. There's people who are experts in India as well, who are willing to write your listings for you, do keyword research for you, create your logo for you. And it can be iterative. The other part for the launch, and I'm testing this, but part of how you rank well within Amazon is a sales velocity. Mm-hmm. And so people are using services like viralaunch.com, and where you kind of do a giveaway of your product at a great discount. This is not to get reviews. It really is to get your sales velocity going, and they attach keywords to those sales. So that's the key, is through Facebook, or I don't know where they're selling these products, but they're saying garlic press, is the search word that they're coming through Facebook or another organization. And so Amazon sees, wow, this person is selling this, there's high velocity, and here's the search terms that they're connecting with that. And so that raises your rank. They're seeing that you're getting sales, and it's tied to the words that you want to sell with. So viral launch is kind of a big one, but then you have to be prepared to give away some product. You don't have to do that with everything. I've products not using viral launch, but it can get you up to page 1 faster, depending on your niche and how competitive it is.
So that's just a tool, Viral Launch. He's mentioned viralaunch.com, and there's no like affiliation with them. You're just sharing a resource. But you'll give away your product for cheap, and they'll tell people go search for garlic press, find your product, and then here's like a 90% discount or something like that.
That's correct. So it's linking your keywords with that product. And again, I don't know where people are finding their products to buy it, but Amazon sees that they're getting traffic off of Amazon into Amazon using those specific keywords.
Okay.
And that moves your product up higher to get to page 1, so that people are finding you quickly.
Okay, let me ask real quick. So you mentioned 3 things so far: the keyword research, great photos, and getting your sales velocity up. And I've heard this too. When you launch a product, Amazon has this algorithm, and they want to see that your product's selling well. They're in the business of promoting and ranking products that the best sellers in the category. That's what they do. So if you've got a hot product, they have an interest of selling it because they make money too. So it's a win-win. For photos, I had Jerry Mills ask me this the other day. He texted me, what are you using for are you just using Fiverr for photos? Like you're sending your product to them, or do you have a local photographer for that?
Sending my products away to a photographer. Found a guy off of Fiverr. He was a little bit more expensive than your typical photographer, but not ridiculously so. Had a bunch of reviews. So just like Amazon, when you find products that are got 5-star reviews, Fiverr has the same thing. And so I was using, this guy had, I don't remember, it wasn't quite 200 reviews, but it was over 100, which is pretty good for a seller on Fiverr. And so I tested him out, did a fantastic job, and he actually started up a new website to do stuff off of Fiverr. So I'm now reconnecting with him on my 10 new products to get them done off of Fiverr.
Okay.
But yeah, it's all local. It's all in the United States in terms of like the photographer.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I wanted to ask that specifically because I remember that coming up. So, okay, cool. So you keep things really simple. I've noticed that, which is good. And leveraging Fiverr. I actually like paying the premium on Fiverr for like the best person on Fiverr, because you'll pay, and if it's a $5 thing, pay $20 and you're going to get the best quality. I mean, price is what you pay, value is what you get. So I'm just a big fan of that in general. But you mentioned sales velocity with viral launch. And then are you doing pay-per-click when you launch? Is there anything else you're doing? Like, do you have an email list that you're promoting it to? Do you run pay-per-click, or once it's live on Amazon, what else are you doing to push it?
Yeah, pay-per-click is the main thing that I'm using. Amazon Marketing Services, which is available, I believe, to people who are brand registered. And there are some hoops to get brand registered, but basically that says you are the brand owner. It's not brand gating. Brand gating is what Nike did, basically, where they shut everybody else out. Brand registered means you're the brand owner, but other people can. They shouldn't. There are hijackers who jump on your listing, but you're not the exclusive seller, but they see you as kind of the key manufacturer of that product. And Amazon Marketing Services opened up some really cool doors, and it just opened up for me in the last month or two, and I'm figuring out more about that. But you're now seeing some headline ads at the top of your Amazon page.
Okay.
When you search a keyword, so let's say garlic press, if I'm selling a garlic press, I can pay to be on the very top section of it, and it usually is, I don't know, it's 4 inches wide, typically by 1 inch tall, and I can highlight 4 of my products on that page. And if somebody clicks on that, then they can go to my brand page, and I can list a bunch of extra products. So, and the cost is super cheap right now compared to PPC. So a lot of my clicks are 10 cents, and again, they're clicking to get to see all my products. So that 10 cents is not just by one product; they're now seeing all my products. Which is huge. So it's a very low cost, and it's right at the top of the stinking page. I mean, they search that keyword, and if I'm the top bidder, they're clicking on it and they're coming to my page.
Okay.
It's ridiculous. It's pretty cool.
Okay, so you're just using Amazon Marketing Services, so Amazon pay-per-click, and driving traffic to those based on those keywords. Is there a keyword tool you're using, or like are you using merchant words or anything, or?
Yep. So I use merchant words as well. They're great. I'm trying to think of any others. Keyword Inspector is another one.
Okay.
So Keyword Inspector is basically you can list a competitor, put their ASIN in, which is their product number, into Keyword Inspector, and they'll basically say these are the words that they're ranking for and their position. So they're on page 1 for this keyword, or they're in the number 1 spot. They're in the 20th spot. So you can start to piggyback your competitors' keywords as well.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Cool, cool, cool. Well, we're getting into some of the details of this stuff. I did want to cover, some of the tools you use for launching, and obviously this is the tip of the iceberg. We can't possibly unpack, the past year of private label learnings. That's part of what the summit's for, guys. There's only so much you can learn on the internet, but coming together in person so you can have these conversations. So make sure you guys grab tickets to sellersummitlive.com. You can get tickets while they're still available for the event coming up. I would love to meet you guys in person. Craig, let me just ask this question, and we'll continue this at the summit, man. I know we got a lot more to do, and you've got a busy day. Do you have like camp stuff this is your busy season, man? What are you usually doing on a Friday? Probably not selling Amazon stuff. What's a normal Friday like for you?
Not talking to you. No, our campers usually go home on Friday. So this is our closing day. So we have closing day rallies and ceremonies. We serve about 30,000 campers in the summertime. So we have 2 overnight camps, and then we're actually in 8 different states with day camp teams. So I can't be everywhere and all places. I learned that really quickly. So I typically would be at a closing rally, and then I'd help usually one of our day camp teams pack a trailer, which is a great way to get to know staff. And I like the organization of a trailer, so it gives me some physical activity as well.
I love, man, that you've built this lifestyle business. I mean, this is why we do what we do as entrepreneurs, is for the time freedom. And I see a lot of sellers and entrepreneurs in general that get stuck in those early days of business, and they forget why they're doing it. And you've built this time freedom so you can do what you love and pour into the kids and do the ministry work that you guys do and be a father of 4 boys. I can't even imagine what that must be like in your household. We'll have to have some talks with Sarah about how she helps to manage all this stuff, which is probably funny. But let me ask this question, and continuing, guys, if you guys are members of the group, we'll continue this conversation in the group. But Craig, I love asking this question just to put a bow tie on it. If all your products disappeared off Amazon today and all your inventory magically vanished or the warehouse was burnt down and they lost everything you had, but you had the knowledge and you had $1,000 set aside to launch a new product, what would you do differently if you had to start over again from scratch, knowing what you know
now? I'd still do private label. So yeah, with $1,000, I would use it to relaunch my existing products today. It's really, again, it's that flywheel, or I'd start with new products, but it really is a great, knowing what I know today, I would definitely go back into private label in a heartbeat, because it is such a great opportunity, and it's exciting. I really enjoy learning. I really love doing it. So it's not hard work for me. And that's exciting, is to find something that you love doing, and that's something that grows you and challenges you. And that's definitely private label. I still, after a year of doing it, I'm still learning and figuring stuff out. So it gives me passion and joy to be a part of it. And I'd love to share that with anybody and everybody. And I've helped people launch their private label products. So it's not work for me to do it. It's fun. So.
Yeah, very cool, man. Okay, you jump back in the space. So cool, Craig. Well, hey, I appreciate your time, man. I know you got, I have a lot of respect for what you do professionally with the kids, and appreciate your generosity and sharing with the group and all of us that are members of our top secret Amazon group. And for those of you that are fortunate enough to get to Louisville, we'll continue the conversation there. Craig, any other words of wisdom or advice for somebody that's maybe considering getting into private label? Anything you wish you would have known when you started?
Yeah, I would, again, it depends on your capital, but investing in a course is really important. It was to me. I started before I had a course, but I did invest in. I'm taking my 3rd course. The 3rd one I am reviewing for somebody, and it's been fantastic. But Brandon Andrews' course, Build My Label, is what I started with. He's been a huge help for starting my business. I also took Andy Slamon's course, which was phenomenal, and there's a great community of people behind it, and you just learn so much in answering questions. It's just like the group here, when you have a question and someone can answer it, and you don't have to do hours and hours of research. So I think that's a huge value add, and I think if you can afford it, there's lots of free resources. So I don't want to say like you can't find it online, but just it's packaged well in a succinct way, and I think that's been very, very helpful for me.
Yeah, that's good advice, man. That's one of the best investments you can make is in your education. And we're saying that we don't have a private label course for sale. So, but find a good one. I know Brandon, a lot of folks have gone through Brandon's course, and he's a great guy. I know Andy as well. I know he's got some great stuff. I don't know how much of theirs is domestic. That's kind of one of the areas I'd like to kind of help solidify for the group members. But I'm seeing some comments coming in. Mike Lanigan says, thank you for your time today, Craig. A lot of great advice, and bless you with continued success. So I think Mike was blessed today. Angela Ewing says, I've done both. She's been stuck in analysis paralysis after watching the videos. So I guess let's just speak to that real quick, then we'll wrap up, Craig. What would you say? Someone that's been watching a lot of courses, they're in our group, they're not in our group, and they can't figure out on a product. How do you break through that, man?
Yep. I would try and figure out at least some examples of products. I know if the person that asked the question, they're part of Andy's course, and I know Andy and his team, they have a product evaluation tool that you fill out, and you can send that to them, and they'll do a free evaluation for you and let you know, here's why it's great, here's why it's not great. So I think people get stuck in that. But if someone's going to offer you a resource, and again, if I'm at the summit and you have a product idea that you want to share, I'm not trying to steal your idea, so that's not my point. But if you want to run it by somebody, I think ask somebody who's done it before and say, is this a good idea? And I'm not necessarily the guru on that, but there are people who can help you out. Brandon was that way for me, where I just checked in with him and said, hey, does this make sense? Is there opportunity there? And you learn a lot from guys that have been before you. So don't be shy in asking for help. I wouldn't post it on Facebook like, hey, here's the idea I'm thinking of, because everybody will then copy you. But if you have a trusted source of somebody that you think, boy, I just need this extra set of eyes, because again, it's like that, building that muscle. They get it, they understand it, and they're going to help you figure out, how do you make this variation work, or you're in a way too competitive niche, or your price is too low, or whatever.
Yeah, man, that's good, dude. So, well, that's worth the price of admission right there. If I can bounce some ideas off you, we'll try to, we'll have to like pull you out of the VIP area maybe, and keep people from lining up and talking to you the whole weekend. But hey, appreciate your time, Craig. Looking forward to learning more from you, man. This is a really, I get excited about this topic because there's freedom in different business models, but this is a business model where you don't have to, you do the work up front, and then once the machine's running, the flywheel's built, as you say, you can back off and live your life. And that's why we do what we do. And I see so many entrepreneurs that get stuck in hustle mode, and they're working sometimes double what they were in their day job, and they'll do that for the time freedom, but they don't fully have the time freedom. And there's different ways to do that. So, hey, last question, I promise. I just had this thought. I got to ask you, man, who's on your team? Do you have a huge staff, or are you running this thing skinny, or how do you have your team set up?
So there's two parts. It's a great question, and I'm glad you asked, because I failed to mention this, but I was actually doing all of the packaging at my house, which is a real pain, and my wife was not loving life because we were doing most of it in the garage, and it was taking over our stall, one of our stalls where we keep our car.
It happens.
And it was taking a lot of time. So the team is me on most of the Amazon stuff, but I actually, in the last 2 to 3 months, I can't remember how long ago, but fairly recently, I actually now work with a company that works with adults with special needs, and they do all of the packing for me.
Really?
And there's about 12 adults with special needs that are supervised and help, but they work on packing and prepping my product and shipping it out for me. So that's been a blessing. It's been beautiful. I visited their warehouse multiple times. So it's brought me joy at my home, but I get excited that there are adults with special needs who have meaningful work that they enjoy, and they have a community of people that they get to hang out with as well.
Well, that's cool. So it's you, like you were the business for the longest time, and then so you don't have any admin person, no assistant. It's you.
No.
And then the special needs company. Do you mind sharing the name of that company? Is that a national company, or is that just local in Indianapolis?
It's local in Indianapolis, but I know that Goodwill offers it, and I think Easter Seals also offers it. So if it's something that you actually have that in your community, where I live close to Indianapolis, so it makes sense for me if I wanted to use that. But yeah, I know that Goodwill has a packing, and I didn't even know that. up until about 6 months ago when I found it. I was like, wow, this is awesome, you know, because it's not overly complicated, but it's great work. So yeah, if you have a Goodwill Industries, not just their retail store, but kind of a bigger hub, and I think it's Easter Seals is the other one that has, I could be wrong on Easter Seals, but I think that's the other one.
Easter Seals. Okay. Yeah. I haven't heard from that. Mike asked, are they paid for their time? Is this like a job for them?
Yep.
Yep. That's what I thought. So, okay. So it's like, I mean, it provides a sense of accomplishment for them. And I'm sure it's efficient for your business. So that's cool, man. Dude, you're changing lives in so many different ways with your day job work. And this is stuff I never would have known had we done this interview. And like I said, you've been in the group for a couple of years now, and you've been through Platinum from the very beginning. You're a founding member of that. You've been to our live event last year. You've been to our Platinum retreats, and now you're, I don't want to use the word graduating, but now you're giving back and sharing as a speaker now at the summit, which was really cool. I just love seeing kind of success breeds success. And that's one of the cool things about our community is a lot of people try and go about this alone, and it's tough to be alone. So I like to think of our group as you can be in business for yourself, but you don't have to be alone. And you're surrounded by a community of family-focused entrepreneurs who are all building the same thing, and we can learn from each other. And that's really the power of a community and the power of live events. So I'm stoked about Louisville, guys. If you don't have your tickets yet, and they're still available. I don't know how long we'll have tickets available. Once we sell out, we sell out. But you can go to sellersummitlive.com, use the coupon code TOGETHERWEWIN or VIP to get hooked up on your tickets. That's a group discount. You can share that with friends and family. And there's a link below to Seller Summit Live to grab your tickets. So, guys, appreciate you being on live. Mike Lanigan, Angela Ewing, Ray, appreciate you guys being on. And Craig, appreciate you, brother. So I hope you guys have an awesome weekend, man. And I know we'll be in touch before the event, Craig. But yeah, appreciate your time as always, brother.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the time as well.
All right, man. Hey, guys, have an awesome weekend. Hopefully you've learned some things, some takeaways. I would say the biggest thing I learned from a couple big things pulling away from Craig is to think about your product in terms of a family and get out there and use Jungle Scout and start making a list of ideas. And what I would do if I were in your shoes, and it's the same thing that I'm going to do if I'm in my shoes, is make a list of products and bring those to the summit and talk to some of the private label folks, talk to Craig, talk to the other folks in our group that are doing private label. And we're all family, just run it by them. And like Craig said, he's not there to steal your idea, but it's invaluable to get feedback from someone. And probably one of the best things you can hear sometimes is, man, that idea sucks. You know, and you much would rather hear that up front, I promise you, than getting $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 deep into a product and then find out because Amazon tells you it sucks. So anyways, just my 2 cents, guys. We're going to have a lot of fun at the summit. We've got a special welcome reception planned for Thursday night. So Thursday night from 7 till 9 p.m. at the top. It's called the Spire in downtown Louisville. And this is the only room in Louisville. It's literally a rooftop lounge and it spins. So it's the coolest view. I was up there when we were scouting out the venue. It's got the coolest view of Louis. The room only holds 150 people though. So we're limiting that to the first 150 that sign up for the event. And after that, we'll have to cap it. I don't know if we'll have a bouncer or something. I don't know what we'll do. But I want to see you guys there. I want to meet you in person. And I want to help transform your business and help you guys have the best Q4 of the year. And that's why we're doing this at the beginning of the fall. So grab your ticket below, guys. Hope you have an awesome weekend. Ruth was in the house watching. What's up, Ruth? She says, thanks, Craig. She loves hearing about your success. And Melanie, we got a bunch of thanks here. So we'll see you guys in the group. Have an awesome weekend. We'll see you guys in Louisville.